The growing upsurge of Gen Z activism in terms of protests and demonstrations, crystallized by the word enough, must be understood in the context of this generation's struggles for economic, political, and social emancipation. Now, let's have a conversation on the rise of Gen Z activism in Kenya, something that has been witnessed of late, and across Africa. Why are Gen Zs actually demonstrating? First of all, Gen Zs have a trust issues with the government. We are a generation that gave trust to a generation that is before us, that is Gen X, to correct the mistakes that were done by our forefathers. There have been governments in this country, and each government made a promise. And these promises, we were there as kids to listen to them, to see them, but most of these promises, we even listen to what our parents say, that so and so made a promise, but has never lived to fulfill that promise. That thing sticks in our mind that there was a promise that was made, that this promise has never been fulfilled. In 2022, the current president made so many promises, and if you check promises that are made towards the youth, will create employment by this date, this month, gas cylinder will be sold at 300 shillings. By this time, we shall have lowered the prices of food. We shall form a government of youth. Then when it comes to forming the government, you'll find that those people are youth. They cannot even be categorized in the age bracket of youth. So basically, majority of the Gen Zs, we have trust issues with the government. We can't trust them that even if they collect the taxes they are saying to change the country, whether or not they'll be able to deliver that. Apart from that, the other thing as to why Gen Zs are demonstrating is for youth unemployment. We have so many graduates in this country. That's something that you cannot lie. People are holding degrees, PhDs in different fields of studies, but there is no employment. Someone graduates with a degree, then goes back to sell charcoal. The person did well in school with the hope of transforming life at their home, but that does not happen. The government, all that it says is, will create employment for you. But now they have not even created the employment. They are busy making the cost of living high. And this takes me to the other reason as to why Gen Zs are actually demonstrating: the cost of living. Imagine someone is taxing you a VAT of 16% on bread alone. The cost of living is high. Someone cannot even afford 2 meals in a day, be it even one. Some people sleep hungry, some people eat a meal in 2 days. The cost of living is literally high, there is no employment, and all that we get are empty and unfulfilled promises. The other thing is human rights. They have taken according to the constitutions, the Kenyan people are allowed to do a peaceful demonstration. But when they do a peaceful demonstration, which is a human right in the constitution, they are brutally attacked by the police, and others injured, others are killed. During these peaceful demonstrations against the finance bill, the Gen Zs lost one of their colleagues. Rex was murdered by the police. And I'm very sure the government is not going to speak about it. Neither will politicians or people in the political class speak about it. All you'll hear is, we are sorry for the loss, and that is all that ends. The other thing that I want to say, which is really, really crucial as to why the Gen Zs are demonstrating, is the digital rights. When there is no employment, Gen Zs found another way to create employment for themselves, and that is through content creation. So they do a content, they get paid some little pennies or some little money, then now you are going to tax them on an employment they created for themselves. Yet you had promised them that you'll create employment for them, yet you failed to create the employment. When they created the employment for themselves, you are going to tax them on an employment platform that they created for themselves. So literally or basically, these are some of the reasons as to why these young people are on the streets demonstrating and fighting for their rights. Why have Gen Z been silent for a very long time? It is not totally accurate to say that Gen Zs have been silent for a very long time, considering the fact that this generation has not been there for a very long time. That's the first thing. And second, the systems, the policies that are put in place don't provide enough platform for these people to showcase what they can do for this nation. First of all, the state of politics in these countries and the continent don't offer a platform for these people to exercise these leadership roles. Number one, let's talk about the age limit. point, whereby the constitution stipulates that people from this age to this age are viable to hold a certain office, and then people from this age to this age are able to hold a certain office. How are you limiting people on matters of age, whereby you might even find that someone who is much younger is a better leader than someone who is very much older? Secondly, Gen Zs are considered to be keyboard warriors who rely on social media and have nothing else to offer on the table. That's why you'll see that even what mainstream media does, when there is an issue in this country, be it the finance bill, be it things to do with the elections, even when you take a look during election times, you'll never see a young person sitting in a panel giving his views, providing insights, providing policies, rules that they have learned. All you'll see are elderly people, because we tend to believe that elderly people are filled with wisdom to provide guidance and information. But if we are not creating a platform for Gen Zs to showcase what they know, what they have, how do we expect them to come into the limelight? The other thing is that most Gen Zs have actually not acquired the financial muscles and status to take part in politics. We all know what comes when it comes to politics, the money, and even when political parties are picking candidates to run for seats in office, they consider much about the age. They may not be willing to fund a very young person because they say we cannot trust young people with leadership positions. But remember, these young people have been leaders in schools where they have been. They have exercised better leadership even than other leaders who are given tickets. So the policies, the system set in place have actually made the Gen Zs to confide themselves in the skeletons and in the rooms and skins that they are in. What next for Gen Z? Now, the Gen Z need to realize that they are battling against a system that was set before they were even born. So here I have several suggestions on what the Gen Z can do, since whatever we have been battling against is going to pass. It has already passed the second stage, so it is automatical that it will pass. First of all, we need engagement and activism. We need to engage ourselves with the things that pertain systems, things that pertain policies, that impact the government very well. We need to be very active in various platforms that we have created ourselves to champion for what we feel it's right for us. Second is advocacy for transparency. Some things are being done, some things are being said in the government, but we are not given a chance, even in the media, to showcase or to air out our views. So as young people, as Gen Z, they need to realize, or we need to realize, that we need to champion for transparency in all angles of the society. The other thing is we need to utilize technology. Someone said that technology has made the world a global village, and technology is there to stay. It is there in all angles in this country. So since they call the Gen Z keyboard warriors, it's time for Gen Z to actually accept the title, become the keyboard warriors that they have been called, and use technology to air out the views, the proposals, and the ideas they have that will transform this country. The other thing is long-term commitment. We need to realize that transforming a government or transforming a system is not a one-day thing. It's gonna take time, it's gonna take sacrifice. So it is the Gen Z to actually commit themselves to make a change. It might take time, but it will definitely be able to happen. The other thing is, as Gen Zs, I really appreciate the young people from South Africa. They came out in numbers to vote, which made the ruling party ANC to go and make a very massive coalition for it from the government. This means that as Gen Zs in Kenya, number one, conduct a civic education on the importance of election to your fellow peers, because in 2027, you're the people will be voting. Second of all is go and register yourself as a voter, and on the voting day, come out and cast your vote. Let your vote speak for you. And even as you go and cast out your vote, the last thing else I'll say is support reform-minded leaders. There are young leaders in these countries who have better ideas. Go support them. I'm very sure that in 2027, if most politicians are not careful, a very young leader, let me just give examples. We have Sifuna, we have Joho, we have Babuino. These leaders might shake the political realm. Yes, the ruling party might still win the election, but still, I'm telling you, if the Gen Zs will carry out a civic education, if a Gen Zs will take votes and cast votes for leaders, in 2027, you will feel the force of the young people in this country. What is the role of Gen Z in leadership and governance? First of all, we are mandated as citizens to hold the leadership of this country accountable. Make the leader you elected into the Senate, into the Parliament, into the position of the governor, into the position of the MCA, accountable for the policies they are passing, accountable for the decisions they are making. They are there to represent you, they are there to represent us, we are the employers. So even if we'll speak and the voice is not heard, ensure that you continue speaking, because the Bible says, knock and it shall be open, seek and you'll find, ask and it will be given to you. Second, take part in elections. Not just taking part, but actively. Don't just be used by politicians during campaigns and then you are ditched. During elections, go cast your votes. Like I said earlier, I'm really proud of youth in South Africa. They came out in huge numbers and voted for what they thought and what they felt is right. Even though they lost, their spirit of fighting will never die. They live to fight for what is right for their country. So as Gen Z, we have known what we made wrong. We have known where we slipped. So next time in 2027, come out, cast the vote for that leader you believe will speak for the rights and the needs of the people of this country. Because as a person, your voice counts in that ballot. And lastly is, as a young person, aspire to be a leader, take a position in an election ballot paper. Vie for a seat of an MCA in your constituency. Start making changes from the grassroots. You may not be able to approach the tree from the top, but you can start from the bottom. All I can urge young people is, as a young person, look for the requirements in the IEBC portal and vie for the seats in which your age allows you to vie for, because in Kenya we are facing a challenge of age limits. Across the continent, there have been revolutions that have transformed the country, from South Africa to Sudan. We had the faith thing in South Africa, we had the movement in Sudan. In Uganda, we have the likes of Bobby Wine leading revolutions. In France, we had a revolution that brought it rise Bonaparte. And I know with the time in Kenya here, we'll also have a revolution. The Gen Z revolution that has begun, let it continue and let it make an impact in the leadership positions in this country. My name is Mwavali Derrick and I am the African journalist.